Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports podcast that does not apologize for championship rings and things, presented by Bolen Media. I am your host, Ross Bolen. And folks, we have our next head coach of the now definitive saddest team in football. After interviewing 6 different candidates for their head coaching position, according to the Houston Chronicle, our idiotic Houston Texans interviewed a 7th person Monday morning, and now that man is our next head coach. The goofy bastards in our front office interviewed former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, former backup quarterback Josh McCown, Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, Chargers offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell, and former NFL receiver Hines Ward. So who could that 7th interviewee and winner of the position be? Lovie Smith, the Texans' assistant head coach and defensive coordinator last year, who is expected to be promoted to head coach, according to John McClain, Adam Schefter, Field Yates, and a score of other insiders. On Sunday night, it was reported that Josh McCown, who many consider to be the front-runner to get the Texans' head coaching job, who has never coached a single meaningful game of football in his life, and is noticeably white in a world where everyone is now laser-focused on racial discrepancies in the NFL's head coaching pool, thanks to Brian Flores, was no longer in the running, and that Lovie Smith's candidacy was gaining steam despite him never officially interviewing for the job at that point. By Monday afternoon, Smith was the new frontrunner, and in a matter of hours, it was announced that he was expected to be announced as the next head coach of our perennially disappointing franchise. What an unbelievably silly cop-out. At least McCown would have been an intriguing train wreck. At least hiring a white dude who has never coached a single collegiate or NFL game in any way whatsoever would have been, mildly entertaining, if for no other reason that we wouldn't have known what to expect and it would have been argued every single Sunday or Monday or Thursday. But Lovie fucking Smith? To make matters even more moronic, Adam Schefter is reporting that apparently Lovie has been in the head coaching conversation this entire time, which is funny because nobody fucking knew that. And it seems highly unlikely, but sure, Adam, whatever, who the hell knows? 63-year-old Lovie Smith took the Chicago Bears to the Super Bowl in his first stint as an NFL head coach, leading them to 5 winning records in his 9 seasons in Chicago. They have not, I think they've had 1 winning season since firing Smith in 2012. Next, Lovie went to Tampa Bay, going 2-14 and 6-10 in Tampa Bay before being fired. Sad. Then he went to college football as the head coach of Illinois, where he went 17-39 in 5 seasons before being fired after the 2020 season. So then the Texans brought Smith back to the NFL when they hired him as defensive coordinator last year. He ran the Texans defense for 1 season, where we ranked 27th in points allowed and second to last in total yards. The D did tie for 10th in turnovers with 25 total takeaways, and we intercepted 3.1% of opponents' passing attempts, which was the 5th highest rate in the league. But for anyone who watched last season, we were absolutely abysmal in almost every area of play, with the defense being a pretty standout low point for the squad. A defense helmed by our now all-the-way head fucking coach. Just when you think this team can't get any stupider, become any more of a joke, that they couldn't possibly stoop any lower, Easterby and Caserio and Cal throw the entire world a curveball and hire internally. One of my favorite former NFL players and now members of the media, Ross Tucker, shouts to Ross Nation, tweeted, Not saying Texans got a call telling them they couldn't or shouldn't hire McCown or Flores, but I'm also not saying they didn't get that call. Can't wait to hear logic on first interview with in-house candidate being February 6th. I hereby give Texans fans the right to switch teams. Thank you, other Ross. As Brian Smith put it, why not just keep David Culley around? He's being paid $17 million in McNair bucks to do nothing right now. If you're going to internally promote a coordinator whose defense ranked 31st out of 32 teams last season in yards allowed. I don't know how to answer that question. I think the answer is Brian Flores and his suit against the NFL in 3 teams absolutely wrecked the plan that Easterby likely had for hiring Josh McCown or potentially Brian Flores. But both of those things went out the window, and Ross Tucker is sort of inferring that perhaps the NFL flat out told Cal McNair, no, you can't hire a guy who's suing us, and you can't hire a white dude who has never coached before when we are getting sued for not having enough black dudes in the coaching pool. This franchise has become such an embarrassment that Texans fans' only legitimate hopes lie in either selling of the team by Cal McNair or passing from the earth by Cal McNair. Like, unless he dies or sells, neither of which is likely to happen anytime soon, we are stuck with Jack Easterby, the Earthworm Jim lookalike, running the show. We are stuck with a front office littered with inadequacies. And we are likely stuck with the same old quarter after quarter, game after game, season after season disappointment that we've come to know and hate as fans of this fucked up franchise. Very unfair. I know some people are thrilled that Lovie Smith is not Josh McCown, that he has some level of experience and has won on some level in the NFL with Chicago. But that was a long time ago, and he's been a dumpster fire since. We were terrible on defense last year. Now the guy's running the whole team? What in the hell? How is this where we ended up after all of that? All those different names. And then in the final hour, Lovie Smith? I don't know how to explain it. I really and truly don't. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, making the most comfortable shorts in the world with the built-in underwear you know and love for living life and making love. It's like, why wear shorts with underwear when you can wear even better shorts with the underwear built in, thus creating less laundry, thus saving the planet, thus making you a hero who is also better looking and more comfortable. Bird Dogs, you silly bastard, but did you know they make pants as well for these winter months? Pants for work, pants for play, pants for golf, and their new joggers are next level comfortable. I'm a huge fan of joggers, big joggers guy. And Bird Dogs comfortable joggers are amongst the best I have ever worn. Check them out on birddogs.com. Grab yourself a pair. I absolutely love mine. I wear them to sleep a lot of nights, especially when it's really, really cold. Also during the day, and I can wear them when I work out. And they look good. You could wear them out to lunch or even dinner or to work. And nobody's going to know that you're significantly more comfortable than them. What's more? For being a can banger, when you use the code BTC at checkout on birddogs.com, Bird Dogs is giving away free whistling footballs like the Nerf football you grew up with and loved with every single order. So you go to birddogs.com, you grab yourself a pair of the most comfortable pants or shorts in the world with the built-in lining. Instead of having to wear underwear, you've got that. Or if you don't want to be a rebel, they've got the pants and shorts without the built-in underwear as well, but that's lame in my opinion. And you'll get your free whistling football when you use the code BTC at checkout with your order on birddogs.com. Go now, support the show, keep us in business, help us grow by supporting our sponsor, Bird Dogs, at birddogs.com using the code BTC, as in banging the can, when you check out. In less depressing news, the Astros are adding a 60th anniversary patch to their uniforms this season. The patch, which honors the 60th anniversary of Major League Baseball in Houston, will be on both the caps as well as the sleeve of the Astros jerseys. We also have Flashback Fridays this upcoming season, which are apparently going to be a thing as well. hopefully those will yield some badass throwbacks. I have to imagine Flashback Friday means that the team will wear some of our classic uniforms. Here's to hoping. The 60th anniversary patch, it's got an orange logo with blue trim, features a giant 60 with the state of Texas inside the 0 on 60. It also includes the Colt 45s logo from when the team started play in 1962, as well as the current Astros logo opposite it. It is tight, and it will likely cause me to buy more merch, which I think is like 99% of the point. Speaking of merch, I am rocking my Sugarland Space Cowboys fitted, which came in the mail today. Shouts to the Space Cowboys. I might just slot the Space Cowboys in where the Texans formerly occupied a space as one of the few professional sports teams I follow in the name of love of my hometown. Because it's just, at least it's fun. At least it's that. In Rockets news, we won one game last week, losing 122-108 to the Golden State Warriors on Monday, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers 115-104 on Wednesday, and then getting blown out by the Spurs on Friday, 131-106. We also lost to the Pelicans on Sunday night, 120-107. In the Cavs game, Jalen Green had one of his most impressive performances in recent memory. Scoring 21 points, he was 6 for 13 from the floor. He grabbed 5 rebounds and dished 5 assists in his 35 minutes. That game, Cavs-Rockets, ended up being one of the most entertaining games of the season. The Rockets are now 3-7 over their last 10, have won or currently achieved the third worst record in the league, tied with the Orlando Magic at 12-43 and the Detroit Pistons at 12-41 for the best odds at a top 4 pick. 52.1% odds right now on us getting a top 4 pick and a 14% chance of us getting the first overall pick. Now, the fall from 3rd to 4th isn't actually that big of a deal math-wise, with the 4th worst record having a 48.1% shot at a top 4 pick. But if we go from 4th to 5th, 48.1% down to 42.1%, and that's where it starts to get sad. And OKC just lost Giglius and Alexander for a bit, so in all likelihood, OKC will lock down the 3rd seed in the draft pick lottery race as they're currently 17-35. So hey, Rockets, stop winning games. Now, all eyes return to Raphael Stone as the trade deadline approaches on Thursday, February 10th. And it appears, as of this afternoon, in fact, that Eric Gordon will be held out and sidelined until then with some potential plantar fasciitis, whatever the fuck it is, at the foot thing. It's not good, but I think it also is probably just a way to, I don't want to say utilize the loophole of health to keep him off the court, but that is what it looks like. And Eric Gordon is the primary target of contenders looking to bolster their roster at a reasonable price, with apparently the Rockets already being offered a first-round pick in some cases. Of course, Christian Wood is also a heavily targeted, and in the case of Rockets fans, someone that we're heavily interested in potentially moving, as many of us, like myself, see Alperen Şengün as the future of that backcourt. We don't necessarily need Christian Wood and some of the antics that he has brought to the team, where he can still provide a ton of value elsewhere. And if he's not going to be a centerpiece of the future moving forward, then why not unload him for value now? But we've talked about that ad nauseum in the past several episodes, so no need. All in all, the point is the Rockets still losing, not losing quite enough maybe to get to where we want to be in the top 3. But all in all, obviously all of us would be happy with the top 5 pick. We're just looking to gain more momentum toward our future as this trade deadline approaches and then as the next NBA draft approaches in this offseason. So until then, we'll be paying close attention to Twitter and seeing what goes on over the course of the rest of the week before the trade deadline closes in. In other news, in his final season on the Baseball Writers Association of America ballot, Roger Clemens once again failed to make the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame last Tuesday. He got 65.2% of the vote, which put him shy of the 75% required to gain entry in his 10th and final season on the ballot. Obviously, Red Sox slugger David Ortiz got 77.9% of the vote and got in. Was the only player selected on Tuesday. Another Astro, Billy Wagner, received 51% of the vote in his 7th year on the ballot, and actually seems like he's pretty interested in trying to get there one day, whereas Roger put out the statement, my family and I put the Hall of Fame in the rearview mirror 10 years ago. I didn't play baseball to get into the Hall of Fame. I played to make generational difference in the lives of my family, then focus on winning championships while giving back to my community and the fans as well. It was my passion. I gave it all I had, the right way for my family and for the fans who supported me. I'm grateful for that support. I would like to thank those who took the time to look at the facts and vote for me. Hopefully everyone can now close this book and keep their eyes forward, focusing on what is really important in life, all love. I just got to say, an impressive statement from Roger, because that's honestly the way that I think a lot of baseball fans feel about the Hall at this point. Like, it's kind of inconsequential. Do you want you guys to get in? Sure. Do you think the guys that deserve it should be in? Sure. But especially for the guys like Raj who have some level of controversy surrounding their names, which we can talk about, I guess. He's 59 years old, grew up in Houston, still lives there. Record 7 Cy Young Awards, an MVP, 11 All-Star teams. He recorded 354 career wins, which is 9th all-time, 4,672 strikeouts, which is 3rd all-time, 7 ERA titles, and 2 World Series championships. But, like Barry Bonds, who also did not get into the Hall of Fame on his final year on the ballot, got 66% of the votes on Tuesday, Roger will always be seen as one of the steroid guys. He'll always be embroiled in the steroid controversy, as Brian McNamee, his former trainer, was accused Roger directly of using performance-enhancing drugs, an allegation which Clemens denied in front of Congress. And yeah, I mean, that'll always be, it's the cloud is always going to hang over his head. He knows that. He's known that. As he said, him and his family waved bye-bye to the Hall long ago. I mean, it is what it is. The Major League Baseball Hall of Fame is fucking idiotic. If they can't find a way to make sense of the steroid era and get guys like Bonds, who, look, he clearly deserves to be in there. One of the greatest players in the history of the game, bar none, and changed the sport forever. And Clemens, one of the best pitchers of all time, a guy holding records and all of his stats are near the top of the board. It's like, what the fuck? What are we doing? If they can't find a way to make sense of that, I cannot wait to see how much trouble they have with the current era of bending the rules in all manner of ways, from trash can banging to sticky stuff, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be extremely interesting for guys like Jose Altuve when that day comes, to see whether or not they will even give him a shot based on his reputation and the things that occurred during the course of his career, particularly the controversial stuff, which seems to outweigh everything else in the eyes of the Hall. Regardless of your stats, regardless of what you achieved on and off the field, if you have a black mark next to your name or an asterisk or whatever you want to call it, they are incredibly unforgiving. The snobbiest bunch of nerds in the world, refusing to vote in some of the most important athletes in the history of the sport, because they're dickheads, frankly. And I'm not saying there aren't specific guys who maybe do deserve to be left out of the Hall as a result of their combined on-the-field performance and reputation in bending the rules or cheating or whatever you want to call it. But surely, when you're looking at guys like Bonds or Clemens or Altuve in the future, their stats, their performances, that what they meant to their teams has to outweigh some of the bullshit, when we know that most of the league was in on the bullshit, which is definitely the case now. And certainly seemed to be the case during the steroid era. It wasn't like it was just a few guys. It was a ton of different guys, some of which will never be branded with that mark because they just straight up didn't get caught. And it just seems weird. The way they judge these dudes is bizarre. And the way they've been unable to sort of provide consistency in their voting is bizarre. And when there are guys who, like, you know, non-controversial players who are shoo-ins in the eyes of the public, and then there are still dudes in the voting that pass on them, it's frustrating, it's infuriating, and it's confusing. So for the love of God, Major League Baseball, if you're not going to market your players and your teams and your sport and your league properly, at the very least, vote the correct guys into your stupid Hall of Fame so that I don't have to talk about it anymore. It's boring to me. And I'm like Roger at this point. I don't even give a fuck. That isn't what matters to me at the end of the day. Because they could never get it right when it came to the voting process. And it doesn't seem that they ever will. To close on a positive note, the number 6 ranked Houston Cougars men's basketball team has won 12 straight, beating Cincinnati 80-58 on Sunday night. Cougs! Thank you for giving the city something to be positive about. The bandwagon grows larger by the day, and I am now a part of it. I've got a former Cougar sending me some Cougars gear so that I can actually rock it. Like Roger. No pun intended. Actually, pun fully intended. For those of you who are unaware, I went to Texas State University, which was a fine school to be sure, not so much for the academic reasons that you would hope, but for the partying and women reasons that I would hope. But we had trash sports, man. Like going to watch a Texas State football game was worse than like a lot of the high school products I saw on the field during my time at Westside High School in Houston, Texas growing up. It just wasn't the same. You know, having friends that went to UT and having so many family members who went to A&M and having watched a ton of college football from reputable programs over my time as a sports fan, going to Texas State games was just mad depressing. So I've always been looking, specifically in Houston, for a team that I could support at the collegiate level that made sense. I've been a Cougars fan passively here and there, but, that was mostly for football. Now we've got a very, very good Houston Cougars men's basketball team, which I will be bandwagoning with many of you who are listening, I'm sure. So go Cougs. Hit bolenmedia.com/shop. That's BOLEN media.com/shop, all lowercase, the word shop, to grab yourself a Banging the Can t-shirt or hat and represent the least apologetic Houston sports podcast in the streets of Houston, if you would. bolenmedia.com/shop. Also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Banging the Can. Follow me, Ross Bolen, at WRBolen, WRBOLEN, on Twitter and Instagram. My first name is William. My middle name is Ross, hence WR Bolen. Also, listen to my comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, wherever you listen to Banging the Can. We've got 2 episodes that come out weekly that are free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the major platforms, Monday and Wednesday. And then every Friday, we drop an episode on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast just for our supporters. Also, check out the Formula Bone F1 show if you're an F1 fan. It's hosted by my co-host on RBP. His name is Jared Borslow, otherwise known as J-Bone. Formula Bone F1 show, one of the hottest F1 podcasts in the game, one of the fastest growing brands in all of sports media. Follow that at Formula Bone on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And until next time, keep your head up, H-Town, and stay down.